In the fertile valleys nestled between the misty peaks of the Kunlun Mountains and the winding embrace of the Yellow River, there once lived a farmer whose heart was a restless sea of ambition and anxiety. This man, though diligent in his labor, possessed a spirit that was not yet tempered by the stillness of the mountain air. He would spend his days tilling the dark, rich earth, placing each seed into its furrow with the precision of a jeweler setting a piece of fine jade. Yet, as the sun dipped behind the jagged horizon and the silver light of the moon cast long, trembling shadows across the fields, his mind would begin to churn like a whirlpool. In the deep silence of the night, when even the cicadas had ceased their rhythmic chanting, the farmer would venture out into his fields with a small wooden spade. Driven by a frantic need to see progress, he would carefully dig up the seeds he had planted just hours before, peering at them under the moonlight to see if the spark of life had begun to stir. By the time the first rays of dawn touched the dew-covered bamboo, the seeds lay exposed, their delicate shells cracked, and their potential for life withered by his constant, nervous interference. This man's tragedy was not a lack of effort, but a lack of trust. His refusal to allow the hidden work of the earth to proceed in its own time ensured that his granaries remained empty while his neighbors' fields overflowed with golden grain. This ancient tale serves as a mirror for the human condition, reflecting the way most of us navigate the currents of our existence. We plant our intentions in the soil of our lives. We set our sights on distant summits, and we weave intricate plans for the future. Yet, no sooner have we set these forces in motion than we begin to suffocate them with the heavy shroud of our own control. We are like the farmer in the moonlight, digging up our dreams to see if they have grown, tensing our muscles against the natural flow of the Tao, and demanding that the seasons accelerate for our convenience. We confuse the act of forcing with the art of facilitating. This is the great paradox of our journey. The more desperately we attempt to command the outcome, the more swiftly it recedes from our grasp. The tighter we close our fists around the sand, the faster it escapes through our fingers. I invite you now to sit by the hearth and observe the steam rising from your tea, for I wish to share with you the ancient wisdom of allowing, a truth that reveals why, in the grand design of the universe, doing nothing is often the most profound and powerful action a soul can take. The ancient texts of the Tao Te Ching speak of a wisdom that contradicts the frantic clamor of the marketplace and the court. It asks a question that strikes at the very root of our restlessness. Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water becomes clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself? To the uninitiated, this may sound like the talk of a dreamer or the excuse of a lazy man, but in truth, it is the highest form of intelligence found in nature. Consider the willow tree that stands beside the stream. It does not strain its trunk to reach the clouds, nor does it command its branches to grow a finger's length by noon. It simply exists in harmony with the sun, the rain, and the soil. The tree provides the optimal conditions for its own being. It sinks its roots deep into the dark earth for stability and spreads its leaves to drink the celestial light. Having done this, it steps out of its own way. It allows the mysterious power of the Tao to move through its sap and bark, trusting that growth is a natural consequence of existence, not a feat to be conquered by sheer will. Yet we, the cleverest of creatures, approach our lives with a different and more difficult burden. We believe that to be still is to be stagnant, and that to allow is to fail. We have become addicted to the illusion of control, believing that constant movement is synonymous with progress and that the heat of our effort is what causes the sun to rise. This creates a state of unnatural action, a movement that grinds against the grain of the universe. When we act in this way, we create resistance where there should be flow, and we find ourselves exhausted, rowing a heavy boat against a current that was meant to carry us home. Think of the simple act of seeking rest. The moment you attempt to force yourself into the embrace of sleep, the more elusive it becomes. You may lie on the finest silk pillows and burn the most fragrant incense, but if your mind is a storm of trying, sleep will flee from you like a frightened bird. It is only when you surrender the effort, when you let go of the desire to sleep and simply allow your body to be heavy, that the veil of slumber descends of its own accord. This same truth governs the mastery of any skill, be it the carving of jade or the playing of the seven-stringed guqin. When a student forces his fingers to hit the correct notes, his movements become rigid and his music sounds like the clashing of iron. He is so focused on the result that he loses the rhythm. But when he relaxes, when he allows the music to move through him rather than trying to push it out of his fingertips, the melody emerges with a grace that seems divine. Learning flows only when the forcing stops. The venerable master Chuang Tzu once spoke of a man from the state of Song who was so distressed by the slow growth of his rice plants that he spent an entire day in the field, physically pulling on each stalk to help it grow taller. He returned to his home in the evening, his back aching and his brow dripping with sweat, and told his family with great pride that he had spent the day assisting the rice. His son, sensing a great folly, rushed to the field only to find every single plant withered and dying, their roots torn from the nourishing earth by the father's helpful intervention. This man believed his interference improved the world, but he only succeeded in destroying the very thing he cherished. We must realize that nature does not require our constant permission to function. The seeds possess an ancient memory of how to become trees. The rivers do not need a map to find the great East Sea, and the body knows how to mend its own wounds without the mind's instruction. Our role in this magnificent tapestry is not to dominate the process, but to remove the obstacles that block the light. We must provide the proper conditions, then step back and permit the natural intelligence of the universe to do its work. In the language of the sages, this is called Wu Wei, the art of non-forcing or action through non-action. It is not a state of apathy, but a state of profound alignment. It is the wisdom of knowing when to cast the net and when to let the river carry the boat. To live in the spirit of allowing is to set a clear intention, to take the actions that are aligned with that intention, and then to release your attachment to how and when the fruit will ripen. You plant the seed, you water the earth when it is dry, and you ensure that the weeds do not choke the sprout. These are your tasks. But once they are finished, you must trust that the seed contains everything it needs to fulfill its destiny. You do not dig it up every hour to measure its progress. You do not shout at the sprout to emerge faster. You allow the mystery to unfold in the silence of the soil. This principle applies to every corner of human experience, from the governance of an empire to the quietest corners of the heart. Consider the nature of human relationships. When you pursue another soul with a desperate, grasping energy, they will inevitably withdraw. When you cling too tightly to a companion, you suffocate the very love you wish to preserve. Forcing repels the very connection we seek. However, when you allow space, when you trust the bond without trying to bind it with chains of control, the relationship is given the breath of life. It begins to grow organically, like a vine climbing a trellis, blooming in its own season. The same is true for the pursuit of success in one's calling. When a man forces opportunities through deception or frantic desperation, others sense the sour smell of his anxiety, and the doors of heaven remain closed to him. But when he focuses on the genuine creation of value, when he polishes his character like a mirror and allows his work to speak for itself, opportunities begin to emerge as naturally as the dawn follows the night. Even the health of the body is subject to this law. When one becomes obsessively focused on every morsel of food, every heartbeat, and every hour of movement, they create a state of internal fire known as stress. This very stress prevents the body from finding the harmony it seeks. But when one establishes simple, virtuous habits and then trusts the ancient intelligence of the organs and the blood, health emerges as a natural state of balance. The same pattern is found in the gardens of the mind. The most beautiful poems and the most profound insights do not come from the forced labor of the intellect. They come during the moments of allowing, when the mind is as still as a mountain lake and the ideas are free to rise like mist from the water. Writer's block is nothing more than the ego trying to force the ink onto the page. Creative flow is the result of letting the Tao do the writing. There is an intelligence in the world that vastly exceeds the limited scope of our conscious planning. Your heart beats without your command. Your breath rises and falls while you sleep. Your food is transformed into energy without a single thought from your mind. Life is happening through you, not because of your constant management. Yet, we are taught to believe that we must be the masters of every variable. This leads to the paralysis of overthinking, where the mind becomes a cage and the spirit becomes a prisoner of its own strategies. The shift we must make is the shift from the controller to the gardener. A gardener understands that he is not the one who makes the flower bloom. He is the one who prepares the ground. He can provide the richest soil and the purest water, but the blooming is an act of the flower itself, performed in its own time. This requires a profound and courageous trust. It is the trust that the universe is not a chaotic void, but a living system of balance. It is the trust that the natural processes of life are inherently wise. The Tao Te Ching teaches us that in the pursuit of worldly knowledge, something is added every day, but in the practice of the Tao, something is dropped every day. To master the art of allowing, we must subtract our compulsive need to interfere. We must drop the heavy baggage of our worry and the sharp tools of our forced action. This does not mean we sit under a tree and wait for roasted ducks to fly into our mouths. It means we do only what is necessary. Then we grant the world the space to respond. It means distinguishing between the effort that flows with the current and the effort that fights against it. Aligned action feels light, even when it is physically demanding. There is a sense of rightness to it, a harmony that feels like rowing downstream, where every stroke of the oar is magnified by the river's power. Forced action, by contrast, feels heavy and desperate. It leaves one exhausted and bitter, for it is the effort of trying to move a mountain with a spoon. The key is to develop a sensitivity to your own spirit. Your body is a temple that will tell you the truth. When you are forcing, you will feel the tension in your jaw and the tightness in your chest. When you are allowing, your heart feels open and your breath is deep, even in the midst of great labor. Your emotions are also messengers. Forcing is accompanied by a nagging anxiety about the future, while allowing is accompanied by a quiet peace with the present moment, regardless of the outcome. Throughout your days, I encourage you to practice the art of the softened grip. When you notice yourself clenching your teeth or gripping your plans with white knuckles, pause for a moment. Take a breath and consciously release the tension. You are not abandoning your path. You are simply softening your approach so that you can feel the wind. You will often find that the very thing you were struggling to achieve arrives with ease the moment you stop trying to strangle it. A master farmer was once asked the secret of his bountiful harvests, and he replied, "I do not make the plants grow. I simply remove the weeds that hinder them. I provide the water they thirst for, and then I step back and honor their nature." This is the essence of wisdom. Remove the obstacles, provide the conditions, and trust the intelligence that has guided the stars for billions of years. Consider the sculptor who was asked how he carved a dragon of such terrifying beauty from a single block of stone. He replied, "The dragon was already there, hidden within the rock. I did not create it. I simply removed the stone that was not the dragon." This is a profound teaching for your own life. Your greatest potential, your deepest peace, and your most successful outcomes may already exist in the realm of possibility. Your task is not to force them into existence through the heat of your will, but to remove the obstacles of anxiety, overthinking, and desperate control that prevent them from emerging. The master archer provides us with another metaphor. He stands with perfect posture, he draws the bow with a steady hand, and he aims with a clear eye. But the most important moment is the release. If he flinches, if he tries to control the arrow after it has left the string, the shot will go wide. The amateur archer tries to guide the arrow with his mind, tensing his muscles in a futile attempt to command its flight. The master knows that his work is finished the moment the string is released. He trusts the physics of the bow and the nature of the wind. Life operates in the same manner. You must do your part with excellence, set your aim, draw your bow, and prepare your heart. But then, you must release. You must allow the arrow to fly. Attachment to the result creates a tremor in the hand that ruins the aim. The Tao Te Ching captures this perfectly when it says, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need." Letting go is not an act of loss. It is an act of creation, for it creates the space necessary for the new to emerge. It is the choosing of the intelligence of the great nature over the frantic anxiety of the small ego. When you walk through the world with the heart of a sage, you prepare for your tasks with full devotion, but you release the outcome to the heavens. You speak your truth with compassion, then you allow others the freedom to respond as they will. You create your art with the totality of your being. Then you allow it to find its own audience without your frantic promotion. You nourish your body with the best of the earth's gifts. Then you allow it to find its own natural weight and strength. This is not passivity. It is the most courageous form of engagement. It requires you to confront your fear of the unknown and to trade the brittle illusion of control for the resilient strength of trust. Look at the great forces of the world and see how they operate. The moon does not force the tides to rise and fall. The oceans respond naturally to its silent pull. The wind does not force the bamboo to bend. The bamboo allows itself to flex, which is why it survives the typhoon while the rigid oak tree is uprooted. Water is the softest thing in the universe, yet it wears away the hardest stone. It does not do this by striking the stone with anger or force, but by consistently allowing its nature to flow over and around the obstacle. Be like the water. Do not try to shatter the boulders in your path with the hammer of your will. Flow around them. Find the path of least resistance, which is often the path of the greatest power. Stop digging up your seeds to check their roots. Stop pulling on your rice plants to make them grow. Plant your intentions in the soil of the Tao. Tend to them with quiet consistency, and then step back into the stillness of trust. The intelligence that grows the forests and moves the stars is the same intelligence that lives within you. It knows what you need far better than your anxious mind does. Your job is not to shape life into your preferred image, but to be the vessel through which life unfolds its natural perfection. By releasing control, softening your effort, and allowing space for the mystery to breathe, you will find that life becomes a journey of grace rather than a mountain of struggle. This is the art of allowing. This is the path of the sage. In the end, you will find that the most beautiful flowers are those that bloom when no one is watching, and the greatest victories are those that are won without a single blow being struck. Trust the flow, honor the seasons, and let the Tao carry you to the shore.